Hello, Reset with Raven family. Today we are talking with Amanda. Amanda took a major reset when in March 2020, she bought a one-way ticket to Mexico with no idea of what she was going to do next. So this is super exciting for anybody who's like, I need to take that leap, that jump. Tune in, lock in right now. Welcome, Amanda.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to talk about this.
Awesome, awesome, awesome. So tell us, let's rip the band-aid off. What led up to you like booking and taking a one-way flight?
Honestly, I thought it originally was going to be an extended vacation. And I think that was just me kidding myself. Like, oh, yeah, I'm going to be back. But I knew as soon as I set foot in another place, then that would be the permanent situation that I would be fully committed to trying something different. I think we always tell ourselves, like, oh, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do this. And you make plans for it. But if you never actually take that full step, then you're never going to actually experience what that feels like. So I just needed to know what that was like. And I needed to not have a backup plan. I needed to not have that returning flight to actually fully feel immersed in the situation. And I feel like when you force yourself into this reset, into this discomfort, then you have no choice but to go through it. You know what I mean?
Force yourself into the discomfort. It's like that term of like leaning in, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, what made you pick Mexico, or what led up to you like, I need this change, or I need this reset?
Honestly, I was just so unhappy with everything that was happening back home in Toronto. Toronto has just been known for like being in forever lockdown. It had the strictest conditions, and it really made it difficult for entrepreneurs to continue or even freelancers to continue. We weren't supported in the same way that people with full time jobs might have been supported. So either you quit everything and be unemployed and just sit there and collect money from the government, or you try to work. And with the lockdown and restrictions, there's not a lot of work for you to go around. And eventually I thought, you know what if I just didn't work? What would that look like? Or what if I created a new version of work that was remote, or that was just on a different intention, like to help people rather than to make a quick buck so that I feel secure? What if it was to make other people feel secure about anything else that they wanted in life? So it was really just, let me just try anything that is not what I'm doing right now. Because what I'm doing right now is making me unhappy, is making me not feel like I'm aligned to anything that I want to be. I don't like who I am right now. So literally anything would be better than what I'm doing right now. And I like to take things to the extreme. So example of me in Toronto is going to be different from me in Mexico. And Mexico at that time was the only thing that was open that didn't have all of the COVID restrictions. So it was an easy one-way ticket for me to just go there. It was open. I was going to had nice weather. I'll figure it out on the way. So it was kind of just like, yep, just jump into the deep end and then learn how to swim and figure it out, and you'll find land somewhere.
I love that. You are not a dip a toe. She said,
Yeah.
jump into the deep end. So, backing up a little bit, so you said you were an entrepreneur or are still an entrepreneur, but what were you doing prior to moving to Mexico? You mentioned freelancing. What exactly were you doing?
So I like to dip my toes in a million different jobs. So at the time, I was a bartender at two different bars. I was also hosting cocktail classes at those bars. And I also had my own line of flavored salt and sugars, my company, Salty Paloma. And that is just something that I would sell wholesale to other gift shops as just my own product that I could create marketing for. And then from there, I was also able to be an ambassador for other alcohol companies, create sponsored posts, do a lot of video content and photography, and also lead other events. And then when COVID happened, I was able to really go in on digital marketing and create cocktail kits to go, which had virtual cocktail classes. So I was really heavily involved in setting up a new version of hospitality that didn't exist before COVID happened. So I was doing a lot of that. I was doing a lot of consulting on helping other freelancers that were influencers in the cocktail space to figure out how to position themselves so that they can start getting sponsorships from alcohol companies. Because at that point in time, in COVID, everyone was at home and everyone was drinking a lot. So there was a lot of opportunity to get sponsored by liquor brands and home decor brands and everything about staying at home. And it was our opportunity to really take advantage of that. So that was really the freelance and consulting work I was doing with helping other people figure out how they can pivot and make another version of their existing work COVID friendly, or, create a solution that really aligns with the situation at hand. So yeah, in a nutshell, that was all the things that I was doing. And it was insane. I thought that I would be completely out of work because the hospitality space just took a complete hit. But I don't think I've ever been busier until that time. I was like an Uber driver going around delivering cocktail kits. Didn't know how to find the best routes. I'd always have to find places to make pee breaks because all the gas stations were closed. It was a whole lot of learning. I couldn't go to a print shop, so I had to go to Dollarama. I had to make all my labels with construction paper and Sharpies. I didn't have the same abilities as I used to, but at that time, I think people were more accommodating and just wanted to see what new things I could come up with. And I also felt a lot of pressure there because I always had to pivot. I always had to have a new idea. I always had to come up with a new solution. But what if I just wanted to rest? What if I also just wanted to chill out? I immediately had to figure out what's my next plan, and people are waiting on it to see how they can support me. And I think that was a really hard thing for entrepreneurs that no one has spoken about during COVID, is the pressure to continue to keep going when maybe you just actually wanted to stop and chill out like everyone else did.
Well, first and foremost, major kudos for you being so innovative in that time. And it's very interesting that I don't know that people recognize all that it takes to be an entrepreneur. The stress, the continuous, like as you mentioned, well, what are you going to do next, or what have you done for me lately, or how are you going to keep up with all of the changes in the market and what's hot or what's the thing right now. That is super impressive to me, listening how you were like, oh, okay, well, right now people are locked in the house. Here's something a lot of people are doing: people are drinking and eating, right? It was like the people
Right.
getting like the COVID-20. So that was very creative. What I wanted to ask is, as you were making all these changes, making all these pivots, you made the comment earlier that, I don't like who I am right now. So what happened? Or was it a growing burnout? Was it, because you said also too, what if I want to relax? What if I want to just chill and I get some peace? Or what happened? How did you navigate that? Did you get burned out? Like, talk to us
Mhm.
more. Like, were you like, I need a break?
Yeah. I mean, coming up with cool options to make money is great. And sometimes I might sound a little bit ungrateful for that because I always find new examples and new opportunities to do things. But Salty Paloma, I began creating flavored salts by taking the the garnishes in bars that were going to go bad at the end of the night. I would take them home with me in a little Tupperware on the subway, and I would just try to keep everything as sustainable as possible, because working in the bars, I just see so much waste happening. Like, people don't finish their food, they just leave garnishes everywhere, and there's just so much waste. So there's always a desire for me to maintain something sustainable. Once we got into creating cocktail kits, everything is individually portioned, everything is individually wrapped. you know there were memes going around on cocktail kits where people would send you a Tupperware of water, be like, put this in the freezer to create ice. You know what I mean? You have to give them every single thing, including the straws, including the recipes and cards and everything. And it got so ridiculous to a certain point where they just wanted it exactly the way that you would see it in a restaurant, but all packaged, and that would never happen. And the expectations just kept rising for no reason, when I guess because you're at home, and I'm assuming that people are feeling like, oh, I can't go to the restaurant, so this is the best option. I'm paying more for this, or almost the exact same price that I would, and I'm getting a mediocre experience. But it's kind of like, on the flip side, we have to come up with all of these solutions, and it does cost more because we have less staff. We can't, work as much to full capacity as we wanted to. So these are kind of the things that we have to make do with. And I felt like I was always getting yelled at for not having things done in perfect condition, when it's like, I can't even go to a print shop,
Was this
So
your
yeah, there's
own
going to be
business, or
typos.
were you working with a group? Like, who are you getting? Like, what's the, I guess, customer client structure?
So I had to fire all my staff. I was just working by myself. I had to borrow my parents' car, driving around. Sometimes the addresses were put incorrectly. Sometimes the security guards wouldn't let me in, because of all of these rules. And I just didn't like, I actually really felt a lot of sympathy for Uber drivers and Uber Eats drivers because this is how we were being treated on a regular basis because there was so much expectation. Yet these are the ones risking their lives, like going out, driving, just trying to make a buck and like survive because they've decided they didn't want to just not work. They want to actually participate in the economy and do stuff. So I was just realizing that everything I was doing was going against what I wanted to be doing. Like I didn't want to add more gas emissions. I didn't want to be a driver. I didn't want to, develop road rage. I didn't want to be this person that was just always bitter about, oh my God, and everything I do is never going to be enough for these people, these convenience focused people. And it wasn't their fault. It's kind of like the rise of Amazon. Everyone's getting everything in prime time. I can't deliver these things at the same amount of time that you can, right? So I'm not this massive establishment. I'm literally one person in my own kitchen creating margarita mixes. And I made it in a way where you can pre-buy everything. And then on the weekend is when I would drive and deliver everything. So I can't deliver to you in midweek because I'm just not set up that way. I'm a one-woman show. And I think that was something that people couldn't understand because they're used to seeing my company as a company with multiple people. And it's, there was no point for me to explain that I've only turned into a one-woman show during COVID. It was kind of like, that's expected, I guess. We've all had to downsize, but it's also like I'm not going to be here and air my dirty laundry and the things that I'm struggling with because, the show must go on. So I think it was a mix of that, of like my inability to communicate that I'm struggling, growing resentment about that, and then feeling like, well, what's the point? Everything I'm doing is stuff that I don't want to do, and I'm continuously disappointing customers anyway. So why bother at this point? So that was really how I was feeling.
So that's a lot. That's heavy. When you talked about creating a new version of work, what did that mean for you? And please also share with us when you mentioned the term secure. And I almost think of like jobs and security as like oxymorons.
Mm-hmm.
And when you're an entrepreneur, you can look at it as even more so because you don't necessarily know what's going to come in every week or every month. Things can change versus when you're, on someone's payroll and every 2 weeks or monthly or weekly, this is what you get paid. So talk to us about you're at this feeling of like I'm working tirelessly and then people are still dissatisfied and I get you're to your point it's like, well, there's no point of reminding people, hey, I am a one person show, because they're thinking it doesn't matter, I still expect you know excellence, or I still expect top quality, top of the line, top service. And you can even look at it too as people sitting at home. They don't have anything else to do now but complain. You have nowhere else to focus your energy but on the delivery people. So talk to us about, once you kind of hit that point, or what that point was for you, like, well, okay, I'm not going to continue like this, and your thoughts of creating a new version of work. Where were you kind of like in a headspace about that?
I think I was realizing how much my stress was creating stress for my parents because sometimes I had to share the car. I was borrowing their car, so maybe they also had to run errands and they needed to run errands on the weekend too. So I think the biggest problem was when my mom started to really help me. She used to work in factories in Taiwan and she had a better handle of packaging things because that was just something I didn't learn how to do, and then I suddenly had to. So I would forget ingredients, just forgetting. And then she would see all of the frustrated messages I would get of people saying, oh, like you didn't do this, or this wasn't done on time, or like, I want a refund. And it's like, if you got your if you ordered a pizza for takeout and instead of when you really wanted it to be delivery, and the pizza's there waiting for you for 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 pickup, and you forgot and you wanted it to be delivered. Are you going to call and then ask for a refund and say like you deserve to get it delivered when it was your fault for checking the wrong box? Or maybe you didn't want to pay the delivery fee, which is going to be whatever the delivery fee is. Like that goes through the process in your checkout, right? So by flipping it over to me saying it's my fault, when it's like that was totally your decision to try to go for $0 at checkout instead of paying the $5 for your delivery. So once that was happening, my mom was really like, you don't deserve this. Like you're not a pizza delivery driver. And also the CEO of this company shouldn't be knocking at your door. And do you know what I mean? So it was just we're getting at this level, and it was really humbling to see that and to be here. I'm like, I'm the boss of this massive company that people might see, online. And here I am delivering boxes for people and people yelling at me at the lobby and all this kind of stuff. So I realized I don't want to be in the space where I'm contributing to this convenience factor for people. So I don't want to be adding to that Amazon list of things that people can get easily. So I wanted to make products again, since I know how to make products, but this time I wanted to make products that are digital. And I also wanted to focus it just on me. I didn't want to have to keep collecting new sales. I didn't have to keep putting myself on blast so that you would be interested in me. It's more like you take it or you leave it. This is all I'm going to be. And that's when I started to launch my online coaching program, specifically at other women entrepreneurs on how to position themselves better on their services and kind of get them out of their own way if they're stopping themselves from the full potential that they are, because maybe they're like really focused on, a competitor, or they want to reach 10K followers so that they can have the swipe up link or whatever at that time. Everyone was thinking about the image of what success was going to look like versus actually getting the money. And one thing that I always knew how to do in pivoting was finding sponsorships or finding other ways to make my real bread and butter that's not directly associated to the end consumer. So even though I had to do kits every week and deliver them, most of my money was coming in on making online content and videos and exclusive recipes for the liquor companies, because they couldn't advertise anymore. Like there's no billboards for anyone to come by and watch and pass by. There's no TV commercials. There's no magazines. Like no one's going to be looking at anything except for online. So I was the first kind of digital person that they could use, because before they relied on all the bartenders at the bars to pour samples and get people talking about that liquor. And now without that, they needed an online presence. So I was able to really monetize from myself as an online presence and use that to leverage, like, hey, if you want to continue, if you want to start I don't know, some kind of business in your online presence, if you want to be an influencer or you want to showcase your skill set in a specific industry through advice or through coaching or through anything else like an educational means, then talk to me. So I was able to help people learn how to use their existing skills with an educational tone of voice to it, and then also sell it to other companies. And that's really when like virtual classes and virtual experiences started to boom during COVID, because now all of a sudden there's these really cool experts that are getting paid the time that they deserve to showcase their abilities and their experiences.
And this was after you moved or prior to moving?
Prior to moving. For me, I had a really intense exit strategy. I had 3 things that I wanted to hit. I wanted to hit 6 figures in the bank. And I wanted to at least have 3 clients for my coaching, like just a new career path. And I also wanted a blessing from my parents to let me go. So those were the 3 things that I needed to get through. And I was like, LOL, as if by the end of the year, this is going to happen. When there's all COVID and everyone's freaking out and there's no business anywhere, I was like, oh, this is never going to happen. But out of nowhere, the cocktail kits skyrocketed like crazy. I got another order for salts. This is my biggest salt order ever. I made 20,000 salts for another liquor brand that they wanted to have for their marketing stuff. And because we were in lockdown, I was doing that with my entire family, bottling each of those 20,000 units. And then at the end of it, I had a lot of FaceTime with my parents, and I was like, guys, I'm going to make this decision to go for an extended vacation. I should have told them that I was going for good instead of saying like, oh, I'm just going for a little bit and coming back. In hindsight, I should have just said like, I need to go on this journey and see how long it takes. So I needed those three things to happen. I booked my ticket like a couple months before, like maybe around Christmas time. I had a set date, and that was it.
Wow. Wow. That is very admirable. And I'm thinking about your journey, and as you're sharing, one of the questions I have is, what was like the time frame on from you recognizing, hey, I need to make six figures, I need to get the blessing, and also too the time frame for you to start the coaching business and realize a way that you could create this digital training. And I'm asking that because I think many times people get into entrepreneurship and they're like, well, why didn't it happen in 6 months? Or why didn't it happen in a year? And talk to us also too about like the foundation that you didn't just get into like the digital creation or just get into the creation of with the salt. So what was like the time frame from you getting into this space or a creative space, and then also to you being able to say, hey, I can teach this, I can coach this?
Yeah, it's hard because if from the day that I made that decision was probably like 8 to 10 months in working towards that goal. But I needed a lot of other things to add up to it. So my company I've had since 2017. So it's been 5 years of me going on in this company that I've created. And before then, I was in digital marketing and social media. I was actually like a talent agent for other influencers. So I knew how those contracts would be. And that was basically the reason that I was like, if I just had my own company or my own brand, then I could use that as my client and start working with these partnerships. So, nothing came from nowhere. And now that I've already established myself in the industry from the agency side to then having my own product, it was pretty easy for me to extend from there. I really got a lot of popularity in the beginning of COVID. I think a lot of people did, as being a person of color, getting opportunities that you didn't have before, because suddenly there was space for that to take advantage of. I had a lot more screen time, a lot more video time, which kind of brought up my social influence a lot faster than I expected it to be. So there is some levels of taking advantage of the environment and the time period that you're in. And then I think I was going through all these cocktail kits. I was this one woman show, filming myself, editing myself, doing all of these videos, on creating new recipes, cooking all of these things in my kitchen, trying to create these recipes. And just, I was really unhappy because the best part about doing those things would be having a team, like a team I had to drink all of these cocktails that I made by myself. And, as great as that sounds, you're like, that gets boring after a while, because I know my taste palette, and if I needed someone else's opinion on it, so that there would be more of a purpose to this. And this is how I realized, like, I really enjoy quality time, and I'm not getting it with this service that I'm creating right now. So I think by November of 2020 is when I bought a house, and I bought a house right next to my parents' house because I didn't know what the state of our health and COVID is going to be. So I thought I just need to be closer to my family. And I made such a logical decision then that I was really unhappy with. And from there, I was like, no, I need to choose something for myself. And I know at least that going to Mexico is the right decision for me. So many of my friends that I looked up to, a lot of like mentors that I've known, were going to Mexico. So I thought, at least like the right thinkers are there, or like the people that want a different type of life, or think that there's more to life, are going to this space. So I thought at the end of it, at least I'll feel more enlightened. I'll be in that space around people that I look up to, because right now in Toronto, like, people are looking up to me and I shouldn't be at the top of this table because I'm not even, I haven't figured my stuff out yet. So I need to look beyond me. And these people are in this place. So I guess I'll go there and see what that's like.
What did
So
you
I
do with
went,
the house? Did you sell it?
I have it now. I just leased it out. So,
Okay.
so I'm renting that place out now. Yeah. But so this is the thing. I went to Mexico in January 2021, and I was there for the full 6 months. And then I thought, okay, I have to leave because you can only get a 6-month tourist visa. I finally left, went back to Canada, leased out the place, and sold literally everything that I own, from like furniture to like home decor, clothes, artwork, like everything that I own. And then came back. And this time that I came back in September of last year was like the full reset of not knowing what I'm doing. Because before, at least it was like, I'm on a healing journey. I'm on this like extended retirement or semi-retired trip. I still had my clients that I was seeing. I was just starting this remote work. So I was fully supported financially. I had friends that I was going to Mexico with. I went to Tulum specifically. It was more of a safe space because there's a lot of expats there, a lot of people in the same journey. Then when I came here now, like I'm in nowhere land. I'm in this like this suburban place, or not even suburban, like this country remote place in Mexico where there's mountains, and I'm just gonna sit here and reflect and kind of like not do anything. And that's the first version of resetting, of letting go, of doing absolutely nothing, because now that's my choice. I'm choosing to do nothing instead of I'm choosing to do something because of something else. So rather than something happening to me and I having to react over it, this is a deliberate choice of nothing. And I'd rather do nothing, choose nothing, over feeling compelled to have to act based on, something that's happening to me, because then I'm attaching myself to that situation that I'm dealing with.
Is there a milestone or is there an epiphany like that you're seeking, wanting, desiring, hoping to come across like in this like space or this time of just resetting or time of peace? Like I guess what are you hoping to get out of this?
To be honest, nothing, And I think that's the first time where like, what if you lived without purpose? What if there wasn't something purposeful behind everything you do? And that's like the antithesis to all entrepreneurs. Like, how dare you say that? Like, we always do everything with purpose, and we do things in a controlled manner, and we have goals and we set them and we reach them. So coming from that space to going to absolutely nothing has been a massive shift, because I just want to see what the other side looks like. So for me, it's just an observation, and that's enough for me.
Hmm. So you still have your clients at this time though right now, correct?
Mm-hmm.
And you still are doing your podcasts at this
Mm-hmm.
time, correct? Okay. So do you like wake up every day and you're like, do you still have because when you said like, I guess no purpose, I don't know. So when you wake up every day, like what are you still have goals or how does that work?
So there's only one thing that doesn't have a purpose that I can like really concretely explain, and that's art. There's no purpose behind art, right? It's not like, I mean, there's like political art, or there's like, reasons behind that you might exude something in an art expression, but art itself has no purpose. There is no need for you to do this except for whatever is burning in your heart. And that is when you actually start living properly. Because if you're doing something to prove a point, or to bring yourself higher in social status, or to gain money, or whatever, these are of purpose because the end goal is very concrete and very calculated. So now if it's like, I'm just going to write, I don't know if I'm going to publish this piece of writing, I don't know if this is going to go into a blog or the podcast, I'm just writing for the sake of writing because this is my moment of flow, or a thing that I like doing, then that's it. And I think that's a really big thing that I learned when I started to get into a lot of yoga and meditation, because you can look at that and be like, wow, you're spending hours and hours of time with your eyes closed, cross-legged, doing nothing. What is the purpose of that? And you actually get to live more when you stop attributing a purpose to something, because now you're not doing it for the result of something. You're just doing it. And then you can continue doing it. There's no rules behind how you do it, what you get out of it, because you're not thinking about the outcome anymore.
Or would you say that you are more at peace now?
Yeah, 100%. I think that's like not the purpose though. Like it's not the end goal. It's kind of a result that comes out of that practice. Like, yeah, there's nothing that I'm pushing for. I'm not forcing for anything. I don't have set goals of like I need to hit this amount of money or these clients or these things. I just do things the way I want to do things and stop trying to over compromise myself or my company or change the products and services I offer in order to, let's say, get this client. And what ends up happening is the people that want you specifically will just come to you. You don't have to try anymore. And that's, a proven fact for me. Like the less I do, the more opportunity I've been receiving for people that want me exactly the way that I am. And I don't actually have to like chase or try or like adapt to fit myself into their box anymore. Yeah.
Would you say that's because you've already built a strong foundation, or you've already devoted so much to your innovation, craft, creativity? Because I hear what you're saying, but I'm wondering, is like someone just starting out, I would think they would have to, promote, market, familiarize people with what they're bringing, they're offering, to even like to, you don't want to be the best kept secret, I guess is where I'm going with this.
Yeah. I think absolutely. If that's what you want to do and that's what you want to share. But if you feel like you have to share, there's a difference to that. Like I have to do this because that's the only way people are going to see it. Then there's a residual resentment because you're expecting something in return. So I like to equate this a lot to relationships. Like if you're going to ask someone like, "Hey, would you like a drink?" and you offer them a glass of water. If someone says, "Yeah, thank you, that's great," then you feel validated, you received your thank you did a good thing, you were a good hostess of your house, whatever, you did all of these things for the outcome of someone thanking you and making you feel validated that you're a good hostess in your own home. If this person says, "No, thank you, I'll get it myself," you're kind of like, "Oh, what the this person's rude," like just let me host this thing for you. So now you have a specific outcome in mind where you're not going to appreciate it for the sake of it. And then actually, if you're like, "Hey, do you want a drink?" and you were going to, pour them a glass of water, and this person's like, "Yeah, you know what? Actually, like, do you have a glass of wine or juice or something?" And you're like, "Oh my God, this ungrateful person like won't just take the water that I'm giving." So you have set in an expectation already of the level that you're going to put in. You're going to be like, to validate myself as a hostess of this house, I'm going to offer everyone a glass of water. And everyone's going to say yes and say thank you because that means I'm a great person. So however you want to equate that to life, relationships, or work, you've set an outcome expectation without even knowing that you've done that. And once you remove that, if you're like, "Hey, water's on the table, help yourself if you want to, don't, doesn't matter." Then if someone takes it or doesn't take it, it doesn't change who you are. It doesn't change, the things that you need to validate yourself. You've done everything that you need by, setting the house up in enough of a way that if people are thirsty, they can help themselves. And, no one has to ask you. And you don't have to, respond or do anything to make anyone feel more or less comfortable in your home.
So living, I guess, without expectation of something in return and or validation from
Mm-hmm.
outside forces. Is that where you're going?
Yeah.
Okay. So what's lighting you up right now? What has your attention, your energy, or what doesn't? Like what has you feeling like, this feels fulfilling for me right now?
So right now I'm a little bit obsessive about this on trying to lower my monthly expenses. So I'm going further away from the tourist destinations that just are a bit further out of the road that you have to take buses for. But It's obviously cheaper there. I'm going to more mountainous areas and the beach side, and I'm just trying to continuously decrease. And a lot of people are like, you're a very successful entrepreneur. You obviously have money. Why are you trying to live like a poor person? You know, like why are you testing yourself in this way? And I'm playing with the idea of if you have nothing, or if you've let go of everything, or if you've lost everything. I don't want to wait to the moment where suddenly, I don't know, someone robs me and I lose everything that I have, to then have to figure out what do I do there. I don't want to live in this scarcity of it already happened to me. So before it happens, what would life be like if I just carried $10 in my pocket? You know, will I be okay? And I guess this is a fun test to see, like, if you go with the flow for the whole day, like, will you be taken care of? And you do. You end up meeting a person that you met in an airport or somewhere else, and for some reason they're in the same area as you, and they, like, give you a ride somewhere, and then someone invites you over for lunch. So you, like, you don't actually need to spend any of this money. And when I started to get into yoga and meditation, I thought, okay, well, what if I didn't take money for yoga, but I got everything that I needed? And what I need is food and shelter. And I ended up finding a whole bunch of places around Mexico that let me travel and enjoy myself and go around the world or around Mexico and explore different areas of the country for free rent and free food, just to teach yoga. That's something that I would normally do anyway. It was, not outside of, I didn't have to change me. I know every morning I want to do yoga anyway. So why not share that energy with these other people? And then I get everything that I need, which is my food and accommodation. So it's really cool how, like, once you change your language to what you're actually wanting, um, success will come in any way as soon as you redefine what that looks like.
Wow, that has me intrigued. What are your I guess what for you what parameters or safety measures? Because I'm thinking as you're moving around and traveling, is there a concern about safety, or and how are you approaching that?
So what stopped me from going out of Tulum and like safe zones in the beginning was like, oh my God, I can't travel as a solo woman. Like, Mexico is dangerous. You don't want to be in a place where you don't know the language and all these things. And I thought, well, you can walk outside and, get run over by a car. But instead, you're trusting that every single vehicle that passes by is going to adhere to the traffic rules. That's putting in a lot of trust to these random strangers to follow the road. So why, if you're going to go out anyway and trust everyone on the road to drive and follow these rules, that you can't go out to somewhere else? It actually doesn't make any sense. So now that I'm in more remote areas, like, I used to think, oh my God, no one's going to hear you scream if you're, all the way up at this mountaintop and there's only like two houses there. If there's only two houses there, they're going to know who those two houses are, you know? And if you're in a big crowded city, you can get lost and no one's ever going to know you again, right? You're just another traveler that came to Tulum, and then that's the end of it. No one's even going to notice because they're so oversaturated. But if you were the only person renting that house next door to the other house, that is their entire income of you renting it out. So why would they cause you problems? Actually, logically. And a lot of people are like, oh, well, they do that and then off to the next one. It's like, well, no one would come back to that weird town because you're known for that thing, right? Everyone else, like, they already have to compete with people in like the big cities and the more touristic areas that speak English, that have all of these conveniences. So that's why now that I'm playing with the idea of like, okay, well, if I have less, if there is only one shop for me to get bread, can I live with this? Can I talk to them and ask them like, hey, can you revise this so that, they can stock some other type of bread in this shop? That's how you can build a community. That's how you can start to adapt around things instead of feeling like you're forced to go to the bigger city with all the conveniences and all the options, so that you are one of the option, where if you got out of it, you're always the exception. And if you're the exception, you can make exceptions. So it's kind of just like switching your mindset and being like, okay, cool. Like, I like things this way. So, how do I get around? And the thing is, in this whole journey over this year, I became sober, even though I own this cocktail company, and vegan. and celibate. So I started to really focus on myself. And from all of those three things, I had to change how I navigate in relationships, right? Like, if I'm celibate, I have to really be clear about that. If I'm ever talking to anyone in a romantic sense, being vegan, I had to go to like any restaurant that I go to, I have to make certain amendments to any meal. So I was able to actually get fresher, higher quality meals because I would ask the chef, can you build something that's fully vegan? And usually they'd make like vegetarian tacos that are fresh, because all they do is just like grill up fresh vegetables. And my meal is actually better than the pre made stuff that they have in their restaurant. So once you fully own yourself as the exception, then people will make exceptions with you too, right? If you're always the option, then you're going to be treated like the option.
Ooh.
Yeah.
I feel like that was like bars. If you
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, this is so good. We're gonna have to do like a part two because there's so many things. You've like dropped so many gems, and there's so many things I want to dive into, but we could be talking all day. This is very interesting. Woo. Okay, so I'm sure everyone wants to keep up with you, the podcast, your journey. So before I ask my final question, how can everyone follow you and find out what you have going on and talk to us about your podcast as well?
Yeah. So you can follow me at Miss Amanda Chen on Instagram. It's also missamandachen.com if you want to find more information about me. And I'm in the middle of actually writing a book about my whole journey with Salty Paloma. And it's all about your worthiness on putting your worth into what you do. And when you finally detach yourself the way that I have done, and realize there's more to your life than just what you do. And that really came up with my exploration of men. I really didn't have a good relationship with men. So over the last year, I started a series on my podcast called 100 Masked Men, where I interviewed 100 men anonymously about what they thought about masculinity and how they put their self-worth into the interactions of women. And, how do we give away this power to people? I think it was interesting on the masculinity front because on any front, you think that your identity is being defined by how other people are defining you as. Once you have full ownership of what that is, then no one can take that away from you anymore. So it was an interesting change of my own relationships, my own understanding of what worthiness means. And that's kind of what I continue doing on my show. My podcast is the Miss Amanda Chen Show podcast. I'm going to start a new series actually, which is just about my journeys in traveling and life lessons that I get. And it's really about my concept of learning how to live, because I think we've learned how to work. We know what that looks like. We coach each other on how to work, but no one has taught us how to live. And that is when you need to take that time to look into yourself and think, what is life for me? Because I've been living for X, Y, and Z to prove a point to my high school friends or to my parents or to whatever, because I want to look like this or I want to be like this. That's not really you. That's what other people are telling you that you should look like. So learning how to live is really that exploration of yourself and unlearning and figuring out all of the things that actually maybe you don't like any of these things that you thought you liked. Like maybe if your favorite meal, was tacos and it actually isn't when you take this time to do that. Because once I went vegan, I realized like I'd never liked anything that I thought I liked eating. And I just did it because I wanted to be convenient. I wanted to, be accommodating to people. And I realized how much food was a social thing for me than a personal one. So, that's just like one example of how you can learn how to live and learn who you are as a person.
That's great. The final question is, what's the greatest lesson you've learned in your reset? If it's learning how to live, would you like to add anything else to it? Because that was phenomenal what you just shared.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I think it's the idea of continuously learning, that you're never going to be done. A lot of the times, people that I've encountered throughout this journey are like, oh, I'm on this journey, I'm on this thing, and it sounds kind of temporary, like, oh, I need to get over my ex, or I need to get over whatever happened in my life. And it's like, that learning never ends. You're not like done after you get a breakthrough maybe, or you know, find some peace of mind. You're just removing layers of things. And what's exciting about you as a person is like you'll never run out of layers. There's always so much to be curious about for yourself. So if you ever find yourself like bored or like unable to continue doing something because you're like, what's the point? There's nothing here for me. Everything's here for you. If you just move the lens there instead of outward of like, oh, I need to get fit, I need to, you know, get this money, da da da, or, you know, actually I just need to feel good with myself, and then everything will kind of switch.
Thank you so much. This was awesome.
Thank you.
All right. Thinking about the image of success versus getting the money. Coach each other on how to work, but no one has taught us how to live. And learning never ends. Such a powerful reset message. Remember, a reset is always available to you.